One Zambia, one nation. Thank you for joining us on the main news. I'm Hebet Mutabi. We take a look at the top stories in the news. President Edgar Lungu says that the country will not go for any early presidential election before 2021. Vice President Inongewina says government is focused on reducing poverty, especially in rural areas. An economist from the University of Zambia, Luwinda Habazoka, says that Zambia's economy will perform better in 2018. And national football team coach Wedson Nyirenda says over-dependency on the same players is what caused the lapses at both the club and national team levels. Here now is the news in detail. President Edgar Lungu says that the country will not go for any early presidential election before 2021, as being suggested by some politicians within the opposition ranks. The president also says if for some reason he does not stand in 2021, the Patriotic Front will still find a leader at the convention before elections. And President Lungu says he will not be intimidated to do his job by people claiming that he has started campaigning by inspecting projects. The head of state told a huge crowd that welcomed him at the Simon Mwansaka Pwepwe International Airport in Ndola this morning that his running mate Inongewina would automatically take over the presidency in an event of untimely death. He says the cabinet would still choose a leader if it so happened that Mrs. Wina also died while in office. And the head of state says he's not moved by people stating that he has kicked off political campaigns because Zambia is his territory and constituency. President Lungu charged that his tour of duty is merely to supervise countrywide projects. He wonders why the opposition is worried with his current tour of projects when the same people are in the forefront accusing him of being unwell when he works from within State House. Meanwhile, the president has dared the opposition not to interfere with the work of the police. President Lungu says that the police should be allowed to carry out their mandate professionally without undue pressure. He has urged the police to deal with law breakers regardless of their political affiliation.
If for some reasons I cannot stand, somebody here will stand. I am part of that decision to go to all to the convention and conference and choose our leader. After this very year, 14 years ago, I am not here today, but God has willed that we have changed the constitution. The next president, the event that I done today is what I'm going to win up to 2021. And if you can, don't forget the thought, if you can, cabinet will choose somebody who lead at 2021. There are no elections after 2021. So I am telling you that we have to elect for 2021. I'm going to start. Let's begin working. Let's begin working. So as Zambians can see that there is a member, still another member, choose another member. Now what we choose who can take over from you. Because choosing a candidate we know presidency is a smart point. Anyway, but that's how we do.
Meanwhile, President Lungu has commissioned the 20 million kwachas fecal pole treatment plant in Kalulushi district on the Copper Belt with a call for Zambians to appreciate and support local companies. President Lungu says Zambians must appreciate local companies so that they thrive, create jobs and contribute to national development. Speaking when he commissioned the plant this afternoon, President Lungu asked ZAMTEL, ZESCO and the Rural Electrification Authority to support Zafico by buying a pose which the plant will be producing. The head of state later directed the Industrial Development Corporation (IDC) to expedite the impending collaboration between Zafico and the Workers' Compensation Fund Control Board. President Lungu says the IDC's first quarter meeting for this year must deal with his directive as a matter of urgency. He also reminded Zafico to immediately sell its institutional houses to sitting tenants as per earlier directive given by later President Michael Sata. And Zafico board chairperson Jacob Mwitwa disclosed that the company spent 20 million kwacha to set up the pore treatment plant, which is projected to create 500 direct and indirect jobs. Professor Mwitwa says at its peak, the Zafico pore treatment plant will be producing 15,000 pores per year. Meanwhile, Kalulushi Mayor Rashida Mlenga welcomed the setting up of the pore treatment plant in the district, adding that it will create jobs for the locals. Several cabinet ministers, 7 lumber chiefs and hundreds of Kalulushi residents witnessed the commissioning ceremony. And President Lungu has given Copper Belt Minister Bowman Lusambo a 1-week ultimatum to ensure blocked drainage and sewer lines in Lubuto and Masala townships in Ndola are worked on. The president issued the directive when he addressed hundreds of Lubuto and Masala residents after inspecting the water recirculation system in both townships. Here's a report.
They did not expect him and many were caught unaware. Most of them woke up only to find the president at their doorstep. President Edgar Lungu took residents of Lubuto and Masala townships in Ndola by surprise following his impromptu visit. The head of state wanted to see for himself the state of water and sewer services in the 2 townships. He stopped at various houses to have an on-the-spot check. And obviously, the president was not pleased with what he saw.
From the kitchen, it goes to that the one who cover there. It's already clogged. It's already blocked. And then we are saying we're coming out from what the
main Masala market was the next point. Here, President Lungu toured sanitary facilities, including the heap of uncollected garbage. And his visit caused a pleasant commotion of eager residents and traders jostling to catch a glimpse of the head of state. And after his tour, he
I want to make it very clear because there are few around town. Let me speak in English. I'm very grateful to all of you, the people of Ndola, the people for cooperating with the authority, the central government for human administration and the local authority in ensuring that we clear the street and came here to serve the people of Zambia and the marketeers here by providing the services that we need. Thank you very much. God bless you.
The day's tour in Ndola ended at Kangonga Production Center for People with Disabilities.
We have not forgotten about you people. You are all part of the Zambian community and we are with you. We will not leave you behind in our quest to develop the lives of the Zambian people.
Hundreds of Fatima Girls Secondary School pupils lined up the school grounds to see off the president who had another engagement in Kalulushi. Collins Chama, ZNBC News in Ndola.
Vice President Inonge says government is focused on reducing poverty, especially in rural areas. Mrs. Wina says government has put up various initiatives to ensure poverty is reduced. She said this when the Scottish Minister for International Development and Europe, Alan Alexander, visited her at her office. The Vice President has also called on the Scottish business persons to consider investing in various areas of the economy, such as aquaculture, forestry, banking, facilities and energy sector. And Dr. Arasanda says he is impressed with the strides made by government to empower women and youths in the country.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Minister.
A real pleasure to meet you, Madam President.
Madam President. Welcome. I won't shake hands with you. You are here with us all the time. Ambassador, High Commissioner. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The separate. Our focus as government is also to reduce poverty, especially rural poverty that has been persistent for a number of years. We are grateful to the Scottish government for the support to the central province in the areas of community level projects in the health sector. For example, the support to the Ministry of Health in the establishment of the fast track gender-based violence center at the ministry, at the General Hospital in Kabwe. The support to the line ministries in the water sector. We are grateful.
Impressed us.
President Edgar Lungu has constituted a ministerial task force on project implementation that will ensure speedy completion of all infrastructure projects in the country. Minister of Housing and Infrastructure Development Ronald Chitotera, who has been appointed chairperson of the task force, has confirmed the development. Mr. Chitotera says that the president has directed the task force to ensure all the projects that are above 60% are completed within the first 6 months of this year. He says after this, the president wants the task force to shift its attention to other projects which are below 60%. The task force comprises ministers of finance, general education, higher education, local government and agriculture. Other members are the ministers of health, home affairs, housing and infrastructure development. And Mr. Chitotera says the president has further constituted a technical committee headed by Project Implementation Special Assistant to the President for Project Implementation and Monitoring, who will be assisted by Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Housing and Infrastructure.
President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Edgar Lungu, has constituted a team of the Ministerial Task Force on the project implementation with a specific instruction that all the projects that are above 60% be completed in the first 6 months of 2018. And then we go down to other projects in the last 6 months of this year. And the composition of the ministerial task force is comprises of the Minister of Finance, Honorable Mtati, the Minister of General Education, Dr. Wanchinga, the Minister of Higher Education, Professor Nkanduluo, the Minister of Local Government, Honorable Vincent Mwari, the Minister of Agriculture, Honorable Dola Sidia, and of course the Minister for Health, Dr. Chitaru Chirufya, the Minister for Home Affairs, Honorable Stephen Kampyongo, and myself.
Minister of Agriculture, Dora Sidia, has castigated officials in a ministry at provincial and district level for failing to help farmers facing problems in redeeming their electronic vouchers. Ms. Sidia says most of the problems farmers are facing in redeeming the vouchers in order to access inputs under the Government Farmer Input Support Program (FISIP) could have been avoided if the officers were proactive. She says most farmers whose cards have failed to redeem remain stuck with them because the district agriculture coordinators have not been visiting the agro dealers and the respective banks frequently. Speaking when she toured some farms, agro dealers and finance bank in Chongwe, Ms. Sidia said that she will not hesitate to dismiss any officers found wanting.
So these banks, these names have come for the ones who are approved now, whose cards are activated. Have they been sent to you?
Yeah, once they activate, the farmers are able to access. The information doesn't come; it automatically goes to the same cards of the farmers.
Yes, but the farmers don't seem to know. And then, like now, I've just seen a woman trying to swipe. Our system shows government has given her money, but her card is not activated. And DACO didn't seem to know what to tell her because you just left her in the shop and say her card is not activated. If you had told her that no, she has to give you the name so you can give it to here so it can go to your headquarters, she should know what to do. But she didn't seem to know. I don't see proactiveness, DACO, to say all agro dealers should, every day somebody comes and they had a challenge swiping, that all those names should be compiled so that at the end of each day you have those names, and it should, in fact, to me, it should be an everyday process. All we've been dealing with the last 1-2 months are just administrative problems.
Minister of Health Chitalu Chilufya has called on the Zambia Medicines Regulatory Authority (ZAMRA) to intensify surveillance to ensure all expired and uncertified drugs are confiscated and appropriately disposed. Dr. Chilufya has also warned individuals involved in theft of drugs and pharmaceutical products in public institutions that the law will soon catch up with them as surveillance will be enhanced. The Minister of Health was speaking when he officiated at the official handover and commissioning of the ZAMRA incinerator housing compound for pharmaceutical waste in Lusaka. Dr. Chilufya also says that the incinerator was built at a cost of $240,000 United States dollars with a support from the Global Fund through the United Nations Development Program UNDP, with equipment costing $150,000 US. And UNDP Country Director Mandisa Mashologu says that the incinerator will contribute to the attainment of SDG number 3 and SDG number 13 by promoting health, lives and well-being for all ages and preserve the environment. Meanwhile, ZAMRA Director General Benis Mwale says the incinerator will be an effective way of disposing of pharmaceutical waste in line with its mandate of ensuring that the lives of the citizens are protected.
Commissioning and handover of the incinerator from the UNDP to ZAMRA.
We as UNDP and the UN family in Zambia at large remain committed to supporting the government and the people of Zambia in the work that they're doing to strengthen health systems and ensure basic services to the people.
You're watching ZNBC Main News. We take our first commercial break. On the other side, we have business news. Stay tuned. University of Zambia Unza economist Luvinda Habazoka says Zambia's economy will perform better in 2018 than in the last 3 fiscal years. Dr. Habazoka, who is director of the University of Zambia Graduate School of Business, says the improvement in the economy is attributed to government's liquidation of arrears, reduced borrowing and enhanced investor confidence due to upgraded sovereign ratings. He further says that the economy will grow due to improved copper and cobalt prices on the London metal market. markets. Dr. Habazoka, however, says that the only threats that may derail the upward trends are poor rainfall patterns in some parts of the country that might force importation of maize if current reserves are not managed properly. He has also advised that farmers should in the future ensure they bring most of their land under irrigation to reduce owner losses due to drought. The Lusaka South Mount Facility Economic Zone M-Phase has actualized investments of over $150 million since 2017. Lusaka South M-Phase Managing Director Mukelabai Lubasi says more than 350 permanent jobs have been created. Mrs. Lubasi says 2018 looks positive and promising as 38 companies have been registered in the economic zone from 25 recorded last year. She has attributed this to sound and consistent policies put in place by the government. Mrs. Lubasi said that the agenda of the economic zone for 2018 is to complete all the required facilities like road networks, water reticulation system, and the electricity substation, which will be commissioned soon.
Basically, review of 2017, we've signed up 25 new companies on our books. I know on the ground there isn't much because, these are companies that are coming to build factories and other things. So most of them are in construction stages and the like. So this brings the total of our investment pledges to $707 million. Then for the actualized investments, as in the companies that are on the ground, that's about $20 million. Because when we talk about actualized investments, we're talking of those companies that have already started constructing and producing. So for constructing companies, we've got about 5, and then 2 are now producing. I think you remember Her Honor the Vice President came to commission Zambia fertilizer, and also His Excellency the President commissioned Zambian breweries and NRB, bringing it to 3. I think for a company that has been in existence for 5 years, I feel we're on the right track.
That's all we had for you in our business segment for tonight. We continue with the news. Government has signed a €25 million financing agreement with the European Union for the implementation of a sexual and gender-based violence and support to survivors program in Zambia. Secretary to the Treasury Fredson Yamba, who is also the National Authorizing Officer, says that the project will be implemented in Wapula and northern provinces for a period of 6 years. Mr. Yamba says sexual and gender-based violence must not be acceptable in society. He says that the scourge has reached alarming levels and therefore requires support from all stakeholders. And European Union Ambassador to Zambia, Alessandro Mariani, says to fight sexual and gender-based violence requires changing the mindset of people and ensuring help to survivors is achieved. Meanwhile, Minister of Gender Victoria Kalima, who was represented by Acting Permanent Secretary Sandra Ndrovu, assured the EU that the funds will go towards the intended purpose.
This violence has reached alarming levels requiring urgent attention from all stakeholders in this country. This vice is high in Zambia for both genders. This trend, ladies and gentlemen, is both worrying and unacceptable in our society.
More than 30% of women age 2024 were first married by the age of 18, and as the colleague from the Ministry of Gender recalled, President Lungu is today the champion at the level of African Union to combat early child marriage. And I want to put on record our appreciation for his very strong and determined role, as well as the role of the First Lady, but the entire government and all of you.
May I take this opportunity to thank the European Union for providing the financial support to this program. Through the European Development Fund, I want to assure you that the government, through the implementing institutions, will ensure that equal access to support and services are given to the disadvantaged groups, including people with disabilities in the targeted provinces.
The University of Zambia has been given up to the end of February to reopen. Ministry of Higher Education Permanent Secretary Mavuto Sakala says the institution has still not met required standards to warrant reopening. Mr. Sakala says that the major issue yet to be addressed at University of Zambia, UNZA, is squatting. He has further announced that the Copperbelt University will reopen on the 17th of February along with other institutions that have met the required standards. He listed other universities and colleges permitted to reopen as Mukuba University, Michael Chilufya-Sata University and Mulungushi between the 17th and 18th of February 2018. He was speaking at a joint media briefing with Ministry of Health Permanent Secretary Kenneth Malama and Ministry of General Education Permanent Secretary Henry Tukombe in Lusaka today.
PS has clearly indicated the minimum standards that need to be met before we can even consider opening these institutions, and our public health inspectors will need to certify them fit for opening. But tentatively there have been some dates that have been set. We are engaging our colleagues, our men in uniform from the Defense Forces who have been helping us to ensure that these institutions are brought to the required standards. And we want to commend them for their support and the job board, and they've always risen to the task when we're in a crisis. But suffice to say that we have some tentative dates when we expect these institutions to open, and there are different dates, but most of them are in February. For example, for Kapasa Makasa, tentatively we were thinking that would be ready by today for our public health inspectors to go and inspect and establish whether we are ready to open. For Mukuba, it's 17th of February. The Graduate Studies School, it's 7th of February, which was 2 days ago. Michael Chilufya-Sata School of Medicine, 8th February. Copperbelt University Riverside, 17th February. University of Zambia, end of February, and Mulungushi University, 18th February. These universities have got different challenges. You are aware that University of Zambia is the oldest university, and consequently the infrastructure, I think, needs more attention than these most recent universities. And even the numbers that we're talking about at the University of Zambia are 3 times more than some of the numbers at Mulungushi. The infrastructure is massive, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
A petitioner has told the Commission of Inquiry into voting patterns and electoral violence that some headmen in Mala area in Namwala district were in the forefront of committing acts of violence and spreading hate speech. Emmanuel Ilunga says just before the 2016 general election results were announced, village headmen told him to relocate to Eastern Province if the PF won the election or risk being killed. And Chief Mungaira says there was a lot of hate speech from both the ruling and opposition political parties. Details in the following report.
Namwala district in Southern Province is one of the areas that saw some of the worst cases of political violence after the 2016 general election. For this reason, the Commission of Inquiry into Voting Patterns and Electoral Violence has visited the area to hear first-account details of this sad development. Emmanuel Ilunga, who has never returned to his home in the aftermath of the post-electoral violence, was one of the petitioners.
They mentioned that immediately they lose, they are going to kill us, or we're going to be taken back to Chipata.
One of the traditional leaders in Namwala district, Chief Mungaila, spoke through his representative.
That came from Mara. This group was commonly called C5 from Mara.
Bashije kuyomba abana bagatinta mandaza aba just Chifuke.
When these people came, touched the house for Justin Chifuke.
Other petitioners also attested to the electoral violence that followed the official announcement of the results.
Now, because the other party had enough information, the leader of that particular party, which started celebrating even before he had advance information, he sneaked out of Namwala. And as a result, the other people who were with him are the people who suffered, because the violence now started in the night.
Hate speeches, offensive language. Another reason was that of markets being politicized and bus stops being politicized. And another reason they identified was the issue of party regalias and even military regalia that was being worn by some people.
A Namwala District Commissioner Mary Sakala said there is need to start on a new page before the next election in 2021.
Where a number of people were being beaten, the homes were being destroyed, a lot of properties were destroyed, some were even stabbed, they were even admitted in the hospital.
Chairperson Justice Mnalula Lisimba outlined his commission's scope of mandate.
Get the facts as they happened in this particular area. And you may refer, of course, to what happened elsewhere, by way of comparison and so on. But that's not really your submission.
Michael Kaumba, ZNBC News, Namwala, Southern Province.
The Road Development Agency RDA says Zambia's ambitious program to transform the country into a middle-income status will be realized through construction of a good road network. RDA Board Chairperson Samuel Mukupa says that the agency is working at completing most of its projects in line with government's desire to create a good road network by 2030. Mr. Mukupa was speaking when he called on Luapula Province Deputy Permanent Secretary Lloyd Chakaba at his office today. And Mr. Chakaba has commended the RDA for funding major road projects in the province. He says a good number of investors have shown interest to invest in the province due to a good road network. Meanwhile, National Road Fund Agency Board Chairperson Christabel Banda says that the tolling program is yielding positive results. Minister urged Zambian women writers to write more and help grow Zambia's destination as a tourism hub. Mr. Banda says that there are many folk stories set in the beautiful game reserves and waterfalls which are of interest to the Africana market. He was speaking this evening at the occasion of the launch of the Zambia Women Writers Association anthology of fiction works supported by the Chinese Embassy in Zambia. Mr. Banda explained that government will ensure writing plays becomes an integral part of the country's economic growth. And Chinese ambassador to Zambia, Yang Yuming, says his government is committed to promoting exchange programs in the fields of literature. Former First Lady Tandiwe Banda attended the ceremony in support of Zambian Women Writers Association.
The anthology is the result of our great partnership with the People's Republic of China, who have been a supportive and unwavering friend to this nation since we attained independence. You may wish to know that Zambia was the first African country to have diplomatic relations with China. This friendship has seen collaborations in many projects of various magnitude. The support to Zambia Women Writers Association is an example of the strong ties that exist between the two countries, China and Zambia. Ladies and gentlemen, works of this nature are an example of unity as artists create synergies that can grow individual careers simultaneously.
This anthology contains 18 stories from the awardees, a story from Aggie, Zawa president, and another writer from Zawa, and pictures and introductions of each author. My remarks at the award-giving ceremony is also included as its foreword. The book, I shall say, rich in content and high in quality, makes a very interesting reading. It represents the level of present Zambian literature and heralds a bright future.
Villagers and pupils in Chipungu area in Chief Nyampande have commended the PF government for reconstructing Lusaka Bridge, which was in a deplorable state. They are happy that they will now be able to access schools and other public facilities with ease. They have hailed the government for fulfilling the campaign promise of delivering development in remote areas. This was when Msanzala Member of Parliament Peter Daka inspected the newly reconstructed Lusaka Bridge in his constituency. And Mr. Daka says that the PF administration is determined to take a development closer to the people.
I think the completion of this bridge in Riverside Mupili is a milestone, and I want to thank the President, President Edgar Chagwalulu, for making sure that nobody is left in development. You know, we had serious calamity when people are crossing from Riverside School to Mupili. But that is something of the past. Looking at the quality of this bridge, which was done by RDA, we feel that the government is committed to improving people's lives. That is the development we aim.
On ZNBC Main News, we take our final set of commercials. On the other side, we join Brian Mulamba with sports news. Stay tuned.
You're still watching ZNBC Main News. Time for sports now, and coming up on the segment, City of Lusaka Football Club 2000 PLC has appointed a transitional interim board of directors to deal with the issues surrounding the team before the 2018 football season starts. I have details coming up shortly. Stay here. My name is Brian Mulamba. City of Lusaka Football Club 2000 PLC has appointed a transitional interim board of directors to deal with the issues surrounding the team before the 2018 football season starts. The interim board of directors is headed by lawyer Chifumubanda, with Andrew Mshimbwe as the secretary. This is according to the resolutions arrived at after the club's consultative shareholders meeting held on Wednesday, February 7th in Lusaka. This is in the backdrop of the recent happenings at the club, where the team has been relegated to Division 1 this year, as well as the wrangling over shareholding and ownership. Other resolutions made during the meeting were that City of Lusaka Football Club belongs to City of Lusaka Football Club 2000 PLC. Therefore, there will be only one team. The meeting also resolved to call upon all players wishing to play for City of Lusaka to report at Woodlands Stadium, further noting that players will be chosen on merit. The other resolution from the meeting was that the matters of shareholding will be dealt with without interfering with the football team. Meanwhile, records at the Patents and Companies Registration Agency, PACRA, have established that Foley Investments actually holds 59% shareholding in City of Lusaka Football Club 2000 PLC. A check by TV1 Sports further established that the other 41% is held by City of Lusaka Football Club, all as business entities. And national football team coach Wetsen Urenda says overdependence on the same players is what caused lapses at both club and national team levels. The Chipolo head coach says the perpetual tendency is what has caused national football growth to suffer a major setback in the past. He says once a team is formulated and results are going in a preferred direction, there's need to have a backup which should not be overshadowed by the current glory. Meanwhile, coach Wetsen Urenda has called on teams participating in the preliminary rounds of the CAF Champions League and Confederation Cups to prepare adequately if they to progress to the group stages. He was speaking in an interview with ZNBC Sports in Lusaka.
Zambia has got maybe the largest pool of players now. Ever since I came, I emphasized we have to have 3 national teams. The local one, which will also be strictly for COSAFA. The regional one, which will be for the players that are playing in the region, outside countries in the region, and then the local ones. Then the main one. So this is exactly what we are doing, and I think this has given us the bigger pool to choose from. That being said, I think it doesn't mean that we have closed the doors. The national team is an ongoing institution. It is an institution that does not stop. The wheels are always running. So I think we have brought in a system where we do not want a player to be complacent and thinking that the position he's holding is for himself.
A 30-year-old female sports administrator has called for more support towards youth sports activities to reduce crime levels among young people in communities. Karo Kanyamba, who is also Green Buffalo's women football team assistant coach, says sports can help alleviate poverty among the youths in the communities. Kanyamba, who owns a football youth academy known as Blue Bullets in Lusaka's Mtendere township, says a number of youths are denied opportunities to pursue their dreams due to inadequate sports facilities. Katota has the rest of the story.
Despite having a demanding job as a military person in the Zambia Army, Karo Kanyemba has continued to run this sports academy. With this talent at her disposal, Kanyemba is appealing for support to effectively run her academy. She has been using resources from her monthly salary to run the Blue Bullets Football Academy since 2009.
Some footballers that have played for this country before that started from this pitch to come on board and help such upcoming talent, because I believe for them to reach where they are, there are people who help them. So even us, we run this academy not for our benefit only, but for the country to benefit in large. Because once we produce great players, we'll have a great national team.
And Kanyemba says her academy has contributed some players to various clubs in the country.
We believe that education is the key to success as the norm that runs. But also believe that when you have a talent, you need to develop it as it can change your life as well. So we started this academy with a hope that through football, education inclusive, we might be able to touch a lot of young people's lives and change the face of this community.
When she is not on the pitch, Kanyemba, an assistant coach for the Green Buffalo's women football team, has a full-time job as a Zambia Army officer. Kanyemba, who is also a former national women's football team player, aspires to take Zambian football to greater heights. Etambuyu Katota, ZNBC Sports, Lusaka.
Well, that's a wrap of your sports, but don't go away because Herbert has a recap of the headlines.
And as we end the news, we take a look at the headlines again. President Edgar Lungu says that the country will not go for any early presidential election before 2021. The president also says if for some reason it does not stand in 2021, the Patriotic Front will still find a leader at the convention before elections. Vice President Tino Ngewina says government is focused on reducing poverty, especially in rural areas. She said this when the Scottish Minister for International Development and Europe, Alan Alasada, visited her at her office. An economist from the University of Zambia, Lubinda Hawazoka, says Zambia's economy will perform better in 2018. Dr. Hawazoka, who is director of the University of Zambia Graduate School of Business, says the improvement in the economy is attributed to government's liquidation of arrears, reduced borrowing and enhanced investor confidence due to upgraded sovereign ratings. And finally, national football team coach Awetson Nyirenda says over-dependency on the same players is what caused lapses at both club and national team levels. The Chipolopolo head coach says the perpetual tendency is what has caused the national football growth to suffer a major setback in the past. That brings us to the end of the news. Thank you for watching.